Welcome back. This time we're talking about The Space Between Us, a teen romance directed by Peter Chelsom and telling the story of two people who find a connection despite being separated by more than 100 million miles. The cast includes Asa Butterfield, who plays Gardner, a boy born on Mars and whose entire existence has been kept classified from people back on Earth, as well as Britt Robertson, who plays Tulsa, a girl he begins a sort of pen pal relationship with, which, among other things, leads him to want to go back to Earth at least for a visit, despite everyone being unsure whether or not his body could handle the added gravity of Earth. The film also features Gary Oldman as the mission leader, and Carla Gugino, who plays a scientist in the Martian settlement. And honestly, I don't want to say too much else about the story. This is one of those films whose plot structure is such that it's kind of hard to tell the core story without giving away a lot of things that happen in the first act. Which, if you've seen the first main trailer for this film, does that completely. It gives away so much of the story, like A Dog's Purpose last week. But to sum it up, this is a teen romance. It's sort of sappy, it's a bit overwrought. Pretty much what you would expect from a teen romance. Is it a bad teen romance? I don't think so. I actually enjoy this movie. Is it a great film? It's not. But for what it is, what it's trying to do, I think it succeeds. The story is interesting. It's unique, at least. The characters are interesting. I like both lead performances. Asa Butterfield, it's an odd performance, but Gardner is an odd person. He is someone who has been raised entirely on Mars around scientists, really has not had much in the way of human contact, really doesn't know much about what it's like to be a regular person on Earth. That's something he's never experienced, and that's one of the key plot points of this movie. So there is some of that element of the fish out of water, which, for me at least, can get very annoying very easily. Unfortunately, this movie gives us some tastes of that. It's some good comic relief, but I don't think they ever overdo it, and those moments really don't overstay their welcome. I'm a fan of both of these actors. I like Asa Butterfield. I like Britt Robinson. Are either of their performances here their best work? No. But is it bad? No, either. And if I sound offensive, that's because, well, normally I do my best to avoid any kind of other reviews until I have my own videos done, as well as my own written reviews, written. In the case of The Space Between Us, after I left the movie, I went to my usual haunt. It's a restaurant I like. I've got a bunch of friends there. They all know I review movies, so when I show up, they typically ask me, what did you just see? And in this case, I saw The Space Between Us. And this friend of mine who I was talking to, she had not actually heard of the movie, so she did a quick search and pulled up Rotten Tomatoes and said, wow, that movie must be bad. It's got 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I went, 8%? I mean, there are some really horrible movies that have higher than 8%. Again, this is not a great film, but you should know going in what you're going to get. This is a teen romance. Sure, it's a little sappy. Sure, it's a little cheesy at times. It's a little overwrought. A little bit. But you've got to know that going in. I mean, this is that kind of movie. And within that confine, I think it's a pretty good one. If you're looking for a sappy date movie, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. If you're looking for a decent romance that doesn't involve S&M, well, this is not a terrible movie to go see. Now, if you're looking for something that's not a somewhat sappy romance, then don't go see it, because obviously this isn't what you're looking for. Every reviewer that I follow has had that moment where they just sort of lambast the professional critics, those that are on Rotten Tomatoes, for being out of touch. I tend to enjoy those. And I actually thought about doing that with this. I really don't think The Space Between Us is, the rock that I want to stand on when making that stand. But it's since gone up to 12%. But if you look at the movies that are higher than 12%, there are some really horrible movies. As an experiment, I looked up Mechanic Resurrection, which was the worst movie for me that I saw in 2016. From a production value, from an acting standpoint, from a writing standpoint, from basically everything about that movie. And that's 28%. The Space Between Us, if you're not looking for a somewhat sappy romance, you're not going to like it. I can understand that. But from a production value, it's well made. The acting is suitable for what this type of movie is. The production values are pretty solid. The special effects are good. So I don't see how this could be ranked below that. Do I think it should have 90%? No, but 12? I mean, that's going to rank it as one of the worst movies of the year. And that's just ridiculous. And I don't want to get too much on a tangent here, but that kind of goes into how I do movie reviews. If you followed me for a while, you know I don't do rankings. I don't do numbers. I don't do any of that. I tell you at the end of my review who I think is going to enjoy it. I find that much more useful than a ranking system. Now, if if you're another reviewer and you do a ranking system, that's fine. If it works for you, that's great. For me, that's never been the point. I can say subjectively I like the movie, but I'm me. I try to say, okay, what are you looking for? That's what, a lot of times when people ask me, what are the great movies that are out right now? And I say, well, what do you like? I always ask that right back. Because what I like might not be what you like. So what I try to do is say, okay, what are you looking for in a movie? This might satisfy those wants. In the case of The Space Between Us, if you're looking for a decent date movie, if you're looking for a romance, if you like romances, I like the odd romance here or there. All I ask for is you get me to buy into the romance and you give a story around that romance that makes sense. In the case of this movie, I bought the romance. I find that the two characters that they give us work well together. Of course, they're written to work well together, but they still do. The actors playing them have on-screen chemistry. It's not the most conventional romance, but that's one of the reasons I like it, because it's something different. And the story around it makes sense. Does it satisfy all of the rules of physics and just would be how it would happen if it was in real life? Probably not, but it's close enough that I bought it. And that's all I ask for in a romance. So again, going back to what I was saying earlier, if you're looking for a decent romance, you like a romance about two 17-year-olds, I think this is something you'll enjoy. Again, if you're not looking for that, go find something else. Yeah, so this review sort of went in weird directions, and I've pretty much given my opinion of the movie. If you've seen The Space Between Us, what did you think about it? I am honestly curious. Do you think it deserves a 12% on Rotten Tomatoes? As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.